Welcome one and all to yet another Kings of War battle report, the League of Rhordia versus Orcs, and this time we have the Scavenge scenario at 2,000 points. So you can see between the two battle lines there are three objectives along the centre of the table. One is automatically in the middle, and then the players take it in turns to place one of the others. So at the start of your turn, if you're in control of one of those objectives via unit strength, then you can generate a loot token which you can put onto one of the units that was taking part in the control of that objective. And each unit can only carry one in this scenario, and you do have the option to destroy the tokens as well when you kill a unit in close combat that was carrying one. So let's go through the forces. On the side of the League of Rhordia, we have, now this is a new one, we've got a regiment of allied undead soul reavers on the right there. That's right, the halfling knights are gone. They are now undead soul reavers, arguably the most powerful cavalry unit in the game, right next to one of the other most powerful cavalry units in the game, the Honor Guard. So we'll see if they make a ridiculously powerful combo on that flank there. Then, in the centre, we've got a volley gun. In front of the volley gun, there is a Master Sergeant with a bow. He's part of the We've Had a Second Breakfast formation. The other parts of that, you can see the Spearling Horde and one of the Spearling regiments are there. And there's also the Archer Horde in the difficult terrain. There's an Iron Beast behind there, and an Army Standard Bearer, not a halfling, and he's carrying the Loot of Insatiable Darkness. Moving on, we have a Duke on Winged Arrowles, and he's not the Ancient Duke, just a regular one, and he has the Whip of Celerity for this game, so his charge distance is +1, so 21-inch charge. Next to two volley guns, there is a troop of halfling scouts and the other regiment of the Spearlings. So, let's see what the Orcs have got. Over opposite this little batch of halflings down here, we have a Crudger on Winged Slasher, a Chariot regiment, and also a regiment of Gore Riders. So there's a bit of a speedy flank there, up against kind of the shooty flank of the Rhordians. In the centre, for the Orcs, we've got a horde of Great Axe, a horde of Trolls, a Troll Bruiser with Blade of Slashing behind the Trolls. Behind the Orc horde, we've got a War Drum, we've got a Flagger, and some Skulks. Then on this flank, there is some more Skulks. There is Gakamak on a Beast on a mount there, and another horde of Great Axe. So the armies are kind of split into three distinct sections overlooking the different objectives because they're all heavily spread out, and we'll see how it goes. So there's the objective on the right hand side as I'm looking at it, so in front of the hill. There's the central one. There is a big piece of height 4 blocking terrain just on the left of the screen there. And you can see the top of it with the turn dice and the chess clock mounted upon it, and the other objective is on that hill. So, you can see with some vanguard moves, the two units of Orc Skulks have moved up, presumably so they can get the jump on my ranged units, possibly war machines, and maybe shoot at them if they get the first turn. However, as it transpires, the League of Rhordia get the first turn, or get the option, so of course I choose to take it because I've got shooting targets now that those Skulks have broken through the lines and they're standing out in the open. And also, I don't want to stand off too much in this scenario because allowing the enemy to just move up and generate tokens and maybe put them on units that I don't want to be chasing after, because I don't have that much speed really. The Orcs have got faster units, most of them are over there on the left though. So I still don't want the Orcs to be generating tokens because it might be difficult to chew through them. They've got a lot of nerve in those big hordes, and the Trolls as well, and there's a couple of units that could perhaps have a token on them and then just run off and hide like a Bruiser or a War Drum. So I'd rather they didn't get the opportunity to do that, so I'm going to try and move up within reason, not too much because of course I do have the shooting advantage. In the middle though, I'm going to push these up. I'm going to keep the regiment of the Spearlings and the Horde exactly level with each other, so the Horde can never be flank charged on the left by anything. And the Iron Beast is just there for backup. You can see the Standard Bearer's turn, that's because if the archers are going to shoot, why not just try and chuck a bit of Bane Chant on them? And I think it actually succeeds for once on a ranged unit here. Over on this side, I've moved the Spearlings up onto the wall so that they can clear it with one move in a subsequent turn. and the scouts are alright moving and still shooting because they are nimble. So what do? They move just into range and they plink a couple of damage points, even though they're hitting on 6s, shooting over the cover of the hill. They do hit some of those height 3 orc chariots there, so that's a decent start. And then on this side we've got my Master Sergeant, the archers, and a volley gun, and they managed to wipe out a unit of skulks and another unit of skulks, so both of them are dead. They stepped out into the open, into my domain, and they have been gunned down mercilessly. So you can see there the orcs have lost their kind of skirmishy units at the front there, so they are gone. Turn 1 for the orcs, and the advance is obviously on. There's quite a bit of difficult terrain, so they're not going to be advancing that quickly. Most of the free areas, there's a bit of a space here you can see. If you go over the wall, there's a big area with no difficult terrain in there, straight to the other side of the table. And also on the left flank, as I look at it, there isn't much at all. So there are some spaces to get through, but these orcs are kind of hanging out in the difficult terrain there. The trolls have gone into the woods, and the bruisers headed over there as well. They've obviously identified that my double cavalry death attack is going to be something that they need to worry about. Over on the left, the chariots have gone up onto the hill in range of that objective, so that if I don't at least waver them in my next turn, they'll be able to start creating tokens. So we'll see what plan they've got in store for me. I'm kind of glad when I saw this though. The one thing you don't want when you've got a little gun line like I had, I wouldn't want the chariots and the gore riders and the winged crudger to all be kind of staring down within charge range of my units. And the fact that they've elected to be a bit more conservative pleases me, because now my little artillery battery down there is going to be able to shoot, and also it's not threatened by anything at this stage. Over on this side you can see that they've set up this little kind of U-shape trap for my cavalry units. We'll see what I'm going to do there, because I'm confident that Soul Reavers and Honour Guard can survive against certain units there. I wouldn't like them to take a full charge from that horde of Great Axe, but while they're behind a wall, they're not as much of a threat. So you can see the wide shot there, how it's looking. No one has got any victory points yet. And what are the halflings going to do next? So, League of Rhordia. Here we go. So I've moved up again with these spearlings in the middle, kept them level because that winged beastie is staring in this direction, so definitely don't want to get flanked by anything. And the Iron Beast can't be attacked by it, neither can the Standard Bearer, because I've got them right up to the front of the back of the units there, completely flush. Up there, I've moved the Honour Guard and the Soul Reavers up, so they're within charge range if I want to charge, but out of the enemy charge range. And also the Honour Guard are actually a little bit further forward than that, marked by the grey little tray there, because the unit wouldn't actually stay in the right place because they're so heavy. Over on this side, my little gun battery and the scouts, what do? Well, they do waver those chariots, so he's not going to be able to generate a token there, because you have to be unwavered to do so. And in the middle, you can see how it's looking. You can see where the Honour Guard actually are. So I'm going to be able to choose if I want to charge anyone next turn, unless the enemy move backwards, in which case I will be able to start generating tokens there. So we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't ideally want to be generating tokens here with my units, because I don't have anyone behind to pick them up. So I would rather be fighting. And I don't want to have to drop tokens in no man's land when I've got no one around there to collect them. So, turn 2 for the Orcs. And the Trolls, I believe at this point my opponent has forgotten that the Honour Guard have the Potion of the Caterpillar. The Troll Bruiser has put himself in front of the horde of Great Axe, and I think he is kind of bait there. So, do the Soul Reavers want to kill him badly enough to charge him? The answer's probably going to be no, but we'll see. So the Trolls are in the woods, and Gakamak is out of range. And this big horde of Orcs there have gone right into the centre, so I'm going to have to attack them to prevent them from creating a loot token there next turn. And of course I do have the option to double or possibly even triple charge them. I'm not sure whether the Iron Beast is in range, so probably just a double charge. And here the chariots can't do anything because they were wavered, so they're just chilling out, and the Gore Riders aren't doing anything really. And there's the wide shot again. So it's all going to start happening in the next turn. There are charges available, so we'll see which ones the Rhordians are going to take. here we go, turn 3 for Rhordia. So, what does the gun battery do this turn? Well, they finish off the chariots, so the Gore Riders are just kind of chilling there behind a hill with no support now. And if they do edge onto that hill, they're going to immediately be gunned down. So I personally think they should have already abandoned this flank. But they're still there. The Duke on winged Arrowles decides he's not really needed over there anymore, because those guns are going to be enough if the cavalry unit comes into view. So he goes over to the other side of the big blocking piece of terrain, and he's just staring out there, threatening the position of the winged slasher, possibly, if it comes in. The Iron Beast has turned and has flamed the slasher, put 2 wounds on it, and you can see the standard bearers right behind him, so he's not going to get charged. And the double charge from the regiment and the horde of spearlings did go on, and that looks like 11 damage there to the horde of Great Axe. So not going to take them out this time, because that standard bearer behind them has the banner of the Griffin and they've got a war drum, so it's going to be difficult to finish them off just with these 2 units. But it's a war I think I will ultimately do quite well in. I've got the Iron Beast to back up, and I've got the Duke down there heading over this way as well. The Honour Guard steamed into the trolls and killed them in one go, with the help of the Potion of the Caterpillar, of course, and then they turn to face in this direction, which leaves them out of the charge range of the horde, and the Troll Bruiser isn't facing this way, so they may be charged by Gakamak, but he would be hindered. And then you can see that I've pivoted my archers, not because they wanted to shoot at something over there particularly, but because it took them out of the charge range of the winged slasher, the Crudger. So they didn't want to be charged in the flank by him, so pivoting like that has just left them completely out of his range. And I believe that my volley gun there moved up because it didn't have any targets this turn, so I want to try and get it round that hill so it'll be able to shoot at something later on. The Master Sergeant's working his way up there as well. He likes running off on his own a little bit. With it being very inspiring, you have a bit more leeway with where you position these halfling characters. You can have them a little bit further away from your units and still be helpful. Of course, he can't inspire the Honour Guard because he is a halfling and technically they're not. But he can still be inspiring to the shooter units back there while getting up to get into firing range. I think he actually put 1 damage onto the Troll Bruiser with his bow there. But you can see that the Soul Reavers did not take the bait, they're just hanging back, waiting for the enemy to come forward because they didn't want to get charged by the horde. So there's how it's looking. I'm quite pleased with the way it's going at the moment. The left flank I'm quite confident about. I just need to start moving up there onto the objective, and then I can start generating tokens with it. Hopefully by the end of the game I can get 2 out of it, 1 for each of my units there. Turn 3 for the Orcs. So, the horde in the centre countercharge my horde, and the slasher on the Crudger on winged slasher, should I say, flank charges the regiment, which I'm okay with. That's why they were positioned in such a way, so that the horde wasn't going to be flank charged. So I'd expect the regiment to get killed with that flank charge. I'd expect the horde to survive with their ensnaring ability. Then the cavalry, the Orc cavalry, decide they are going to abandon that flank after all, but they are going to have to take a round of shooting probably before they escape. And over on this side, Gakamak charges into the Honour Guard, hindered, but he's still, I think even while he's hindered, he still hits on 3s, so he's pretty tasty. He's unlikely to kill them, but we'll see. The Troll Bruiser doesn't charge into the Soul Reavers, he just moves right up to them because he's just out of range to charge them, so he's just chilling out in front of them, which will prevent them most likely from being able to charge the Orc horde there, who have moved over the wall now, so ready to strike furious countercharge on anyone that breaks through those 2 units in front of them. Over here you can see that the regiment gets killed, Spearlings toast as expected, but that's how the Crudger positions himself afterwards, because it was a risk moving backwards, because as you can see here, you can't see the Duke, but he is just underneath the camera here. So if the Crudger had gone backwards and only rolled a single inch, then the Duke would have had a flank charge on him, and possibly even the Iron Beast as well. So that would have been really bad news. So instead of trying to escape from the charge altogether by going backwards far enough, the slasher decides he's going to turn around and possibly take a double charge from two big beasties. And this horde actually become wavered. I mean, look at that, 10 damage, so that must have been a 9 to waver them. So, wow. Oh yeah, that orc horde have the Brew of Courage as well, so they're really tough. So there's how it's looking in the middle. Over here, the Honour Guard takes 6 damage from Gekamak, which is not too wild, but then wavering them with that, oh dear. So that's unfortunate. 2 nerve rolls of 9 to waver 2 of my important units there, so that could put a bit of a spanner in the works, but we shall see. Turn 4. So the Spearlings on the left have moved up onto that objective, so they can start getting a loot token next turn, hopefully. And the little gun battery, what do? Well, they waver the Gore Riders, which is nice because they're going to kind of be stuck in that whole area now, so I'll have another chance to shoot them probably. The Iron Beast charges into the Rhordia and manages to waver it with a good nerve roll, so that kind of counteracts the nice rolls that the Orcs had on nerve in the last round. And you can see the Duke there charged into the Orc horde, thinking that, well, that horde of mine could do with a little bit of backup, and surely the Iron Beast will be able to help out with that big Rhordia. And as you can see, it gets them up to 13 damage, but still not enough with all those bonuses they have. And then, what does my little shooting area in the centre get accomplished here? Well, they've got that horde of Orcs up to 7 damage, so that'll make it an easier task to kill them when I get round to charging them at some point. The Soul Reavers manage to kill the Troll Bruiser, and then they go backwards and they make it far enough so that they can't be charged by the horde as well, which is just about perfect. You can see that the Honour Guard have moved backwards away from Gekamak as well, which puts them out of charge range of the horde also. So keeping that horde out of combat, making sure I'm going to get the first charge in on them, I felt was a high priority. So there's how it's looking. Quite healthy for the Rhordians at the moment, I think. Turn 4. So the Rhordia goes back into the Iron Beast. I think I wavered it, but it has Fury. Then the horde of Great Axe in the middle countercharges my horde, so they should be able to kill me this time. And Gekamak goes into the Honour Guard again, and the horde have just positioned themselves so that they can't be flank charged by any of my units. And the cavalry are just kind of chilling out there because they were wavered. And the Honour Guard become wavered again, so it was a good roll to get them wavered last time. This time it's not so good. Doing 6 damage again, you would hope to maybe kill them this time, but it's a waver again. The Iron Beast takes some damage, not enough to worry him though. And the horde of Spearlings does go down as expected. So that's how that situation looks at the end. So I should be able to finish off that unit, hopefully next turn. I've got a lot of shooting that can see them now. There's how it's looking. You can see that my Archer horde and the Master Sergeant will be able to shoot at that horde. And they're already heavily damaged. Turn 5 for the Rhordians. So, the Spearling Regiment pick up a loot token, and at this point I'm kind of thinking, well, you can see that these 2 volley guns finish off the cavalry unit. I'm thinking that my scouts there should really be positioned closer to that token, because as it stands now, they are not going to be able to generate a token in turn 6, which is possibly fatal. So you've got to plan out when you're getting units in position, and they just didn't have the speed to get there while also shooting at things. So I should have just given up on shooting with them and moved them up a bit sooner, I think, so that on turn 6 I would have been able to generate a token for them. And any other shenanigans I might like to do, such as dropping a token with my Spearling Regiment, I don't think will be possible, because they would have to generate one before dropping one, not after, as I understand it, which they won't be able to do because they can't hold 2 at once. So it's a little bit of a mess up over on that side, but it's something to think about for the future. Over here, the Iron Beast gets more damage in on the Slasher. The Archers, what do? Well, not too much more damage onto that unit, unfortunately. It's still not enough to kill them. You can see that the Duke has actually landed behind them though. Rather than just charging them in the front, I've decided shooting at them would be a better choice, and I've landed behind them with the Duke, so he's got the option to attack pretty much anything he wants next turn, hopefully. Then the Soul Reavers go straight into the Horde that was already damaged, the Great Axe Horde on the right, kill them in one fell swoop, and then just turn around, sitting on that objective nicely so they can create a token next time, which is nice. The Honour Guard are still just chilling because they were wavered again. I think they went backwards again, actually. And now turn 5 for the Orcs. So the Slasher has gone back into the Iron Beast. This Great Axe Horde generate a loot token, and then they flank charge the Iron Beast. So I would expect that to die now. Then the little characters behind there are just positioning themselves, chilling out on the objective. So if the War Drum survives longer, it will be able to spawn another one. Gakamak finally finishes off the Honour Guard at the third attempt. His worst round of attacks, it looks like he only did 1 damage that time, but he kills them. And he moves out the woods a bit. And the Iron Beast is dead. So turn 6 for Rhordia. Now at this point, I've got the scouts up there, so they'll be able to generate a token in turn 7, not 6 unfortunately. So I'm probably hoping for turn 7 at this point, but it's still very winnable on turn 6. The volley guns are moving because there's no juicy targets for them at the moment. And now I would not recommend this move in a tournament situation, because really I could have guaranteed that I did not lose the game by not charging the Soul Reavers into Gakamak. I could have backed them away, which meant that he would have been the only thing able to possibly attack them next turn, unless they position themselves behind the woods so he can't even see them. So really they could have guaranteed their own safety with a token in the Orc turn 6, basically. But I decided, you know what, let's just charge Gakamak, because I want to kill him. I don't like him very much. Then the Duke, who decided to charge into the Horde because they were so close to death, only wavers them, unfortunately, so that token is still sitting there, which means that the Orcs actually have a chance to win now. So, the Archers, they kill the War Drum, so that's nice, but looking at this situation here, so the Soul Reavers, if they didn't want to attack Gakamak and position themselves behind the woods in the Orc turn 6, all that would have really been possible is, well, the Horde are wavered and they've got a token, so there's not much they can do. So it would have been down to the Crudger on Winged Slasher to either kill something or get himself in a position to generate a loot token in the next turn, which seems unlikely. I think it's possible that the Horde could have dropped a token while being wavered. I'm pretty sure you can still do that. And then the Slasher could have picked it up, which meant that if the Horde survived another round, they could have got a token. But it still would have guaranteed a Rhordia win, I think, by hiding the Soul Reavers. But the fact they've charged into Gakamak means that the Crudger has a charge on them, because he can see them because they're in the woods, and Gakamak can countercharge them as well. So if they kill the Soul Reavers and steal that token, they would actually be 2-1 up, comically enough. So, turn 6 for the Orcs. And not much is going on here, because that unit was wavered. But they do go for the double charge on the Soul Reavers. It's hindered for the Slasher, so I would hope the Soul Reavers would survive that, but they actually die. And the token gets stolen by the Winged Slasher mounted Crudger. So the Orcs are actually in the lead at this stage. There's the overrun. And if the game ends now, the Orcs will actually win 2-1. However, there is a turn 7. And don't worry, there aren't 21 seconds left for turn 7. That's just how much time was left after my turn. So, turn 7 for Rhordia. And a loot token was spawned by the scouts. There we go. There's one for them. Then all my shooting, what does it do? Kills off the Winged Slasher. So he drops his token on the ground. The Duke killed the Horde of Orcs, the Great Axe, and stole their token. So really, Rhordians have guaranteed a win now. Stolen all the tokens, and I don't think the Orcs have anything left that can even hold a token at this stage. They don't. They've only got Gakamak and a Standard Bearer left. So, clear Rhordia win coming up, but there is still the formality of the Orc turn. Gekamak tries to kill the Duke, but can't do it. And that's going to be the end of that. So those are the objectives held by the Rhordians there. 2 over on the left flank, and 1 by the Duke on winged Arrowles. So you can see how if you were in a tournament you would not want to imitate the move that the Soul Reavers made and put themselves in harm's way when they could have guaranteed a victory in turn 6. So definitely wouldn't recommend that if you're playing in any kind of competitive environment. But in the end it worked out and the Rhordians get a victory, and if you look at how much was alive at the end there, it's fairly decisive. The Rhordians did lose both of the hard-hitting cavalry units, but there is a lot left alive as well. All the volley guns are still alive. They didn't get harassed at all for the whole game. And if you're going to be facing an army that has lots of artillery like that, and it's not like they were unable to shoot for most of the game either. They got a fair few shots in. So I think you'd really want to be hassling them if you can. And the Orcs do have the units to do it. Gekamak possibly could have done that, but he obviously felt he was more needed over on the right flank because the Honour Guard and the Soul Reavers were both there. And Gekamak did a good job in the end. He killed off the Honour Guard on his own. I don't know how many points Gekamak is, but I think it's probably a decent enough trade, especially considering he survived the game. As far as my list goes, I like it, but a couple of the items, particularly the Whip of Celerity on the Iron Duke, I felt was kind of pointless. So I call him the Iron Duke, but he does have Iron Resolve, so he is technically an Iron Duke, I suppose. I'm not sure about that item. It doesn't help that much. So I think I'm going to ditch that and take a couple of cheap 5-point items on a couple of units. I like the list overall, though. I like the 2 really hard-hitting units, even though it's tough to get them inspired in certain circumstances. I think the Soul Reavers are survivable enough, or they should be in theory with the Defense 6, that ditching an Iron Beast for them, and I think there's about a 90-point difference. Iron Beast is 210, Soul Reavers are 300. So what I did with the list from the recent tournament was I took out an Iron Beast, I took out the Sorcerer, and I took out the Halfling Knights, and I brought in the Soul Reaver Regiment, and the Scouts, and a 3rd volley gun. So overall, I think the list worked quite well. There's just a couple of weird scenario shenanigans that I could have done differently that would have made it easier. For example, the Scouts on the left should have moved up sooner so that they were able to generate a loot token earlier in the game, and also the silliness with the Soul Reavers on the right needlessly charging them into Gekamak when they could have guaranteed the win. But apart from that, pretty solid, I would say. I like this list, so I'm going to, with a couple of tweaks, take it to the next tournament, which is coming up probably the day that you'll see this video. I think I'll put this video to go public on the morning of that tournament, just so none of my opponents get the drop on my game-winning strategies. And let's see, anything else to be said? Well, I'm enjoying the League of Rhordia very much. This is the first time I've taken any allies with them, and we'll see how it goes in a tournament format against lots of different lists, because I always felt they weren't quite killy enough before as far as close combat goes. It's really only the Honour Guard that can be guaranteed to do serious damage, so I think with adding those Soul Reavers in there as allies, I could have painted more Honour Guard, but that would mean getting more of these Chicken Riders, and I already have the Knights, so why not make use of them as something better than just Halfling Knights? The other option I had was to use them as Household Knights, which are kind of the human Rhordian Knights, which are cheaper, and I could have had something else in the list then. I could have then taken out the Scouts and kept the Household Knights and had another Iron Beast perhaps. But I like the feel of this Honour Guard plus Soul Reaver combo. We'll see how it goes though, and I'll report on that very, very soon, probably a day or two after this video is seen by public eyes. So let me know what you think of the League of Rhordia in general, of my list, of my army, and of this game in general. So all that remains to be said, good night out there, whatever you are.